Yes. I just got here. It's 1:49. Yeah, about 4 or 5 minutes ago, and I sent probably about 1,600 emails. That included links to the sheriff's manuals. And I'm a little concerned because I haven't gotten any phone calls, didn't get any emails, and I started thinking about the actual manual and the requirements of the oath, yes, and this concept of um, having a contractual obligation to support the state constitution and the United States Constitution. Now, there is what's known as a fundamental breach, yes, or a repudiatory breach, yes. Now, a material breach is a breach of contract that is significant enough to permit the aggrieved party to elect to treat the breach as total rather than partial, yeah. Thus excusing that party from further performance and affording it the right to sue for damages. Yes. Now, these repudiatory breaches, a breach so fundamental that it permits the non-breaching party to terminate without penalty any reciprocal performance or obligation, also termed as fundamental breach. Yes. Now, there is a certain amount of duty, a violation of legal or moral obligation, the breach of duty. Yes, the failure to act as the law obligates one to act, especially a fiduciary violation of an obligation owed to another. See negligence. Then there's the breach of duty of care. Negligence that results in a foreseeable injury that would not have occurred but for the negligent person's actions. Negligence, ooch, breach of care. Then there's a breach of injunction, a violation of the terms of a court's injunctive order. A breach of injunction is often treated as a civil contempt of court. Yes. Then there's the breach of loyalty, an act that is detrimental to the interests of someone to whom a fiduciary duty is owed, especially an act that furthers the actor's own interests or those of a competitor of the beneficiary. Now, these breaches, yes, um, there is a duty to care, and there's a breach of duty. Yes. See, when you're employed as a sheriff in any county of the United States, and you've sworn under oath or affirmation that you would support the Constitution and the rights of each and every citizen. Yeah. I have documented that I did not receive actual notice of hearings. Yes. In fact, I put on my Facebook a picture about how you have to give 5 judicial days notice to um, the respondent. Yes. Now, let's say you have a contractual obligation known as the Sheriff's Manual of each and every county and state of the United States. Somehow, you're thinking that you can issue court orders without any jurisdiction over the parties, the minors, or the subject matter, that the respondent did not have reasonable notice and an opportunity to be heard. Notice of the hearing was not served on the respondent by personal service, service by mail, or service by publication. The respondent did not receive actual notice of the hearing. The respondent was not present at the hearing. Uh, the order was not issued in accordance with the full faith and credit provisions of the Violence Against Women's Act. Now, for every sheriff in the United States that has ever been employed in any sheriff's department where they have a manual, yes, where you were given a copy of it when you were employed? Yeah. And they told you better read it, all 832 pages, King County? Yes. And for some reason you thought, nah, I'll read it some other time. I think you should read it today. As a condition of your employment, you're given a manual from the county. Now, this breach, reciprocal performance or obligation, yes. Breaching your actual employment contract and not enforcing the requirements of the sheriff's manual, means that I can sue you. Now, I, I told you that the requirements of every sheriff's manual has to be enforced. Yes. And I put from Clallam County's sheriff's manual the constitutional requirements. All members, yes, of the sheriff's department shall observe and comply with every person's clearly established rights under the United States and Washington constitutions. Yes. Now, I'm one of those persons that has clearly established rights, but you haven't enforced those rights. Now, I told you as you watch the videos, I've documented numerous civil rights violations, constitutional rights violations, civil liberty violations, and humanitarian rights violations. And I want the state of Washington's Constitution enforced and the United States Constitution's enforced. And then I said, have my sons and Marilyn call me at 509-599-1988. I want my custody rights. My right to file lawsuits against each and every sheriff's department of the United States of America. You have a complete breach of your contractual law. Yeah, you did. Now, these victims' rights and resources that I kept telling you about, which I'm going to want those from every state of the United States. This protection order was not issued according to the requirements of the full faith and credit of the United States Constitution. I want to reside with my sons and Marilyn. Ooh. So I said, be sure and enforce the requirements of every sheriff's manual today. Now, I didn't get any phone calls, but there is some limitations to the authority of the office of the sheriff. Yes, the authority of the Clallam County Sheriff's Office derives from the elected office of the sheriff. Yes, Washington State's Constitution, Article number 11, RCW 36.28.010. Now, every sheriff, deputy sheriff, under sheriff, and jailer, is responsible for the enforcement of state law, county ordinances, as well as other laws. Now, when it says state law, the RCWs necessary to issue court orders are state laws. And you have to actually give the respondent reasonable notice and an opportunity to be heard. And it has to be served on the respondent by personal service, service by mail, or service by publication. Yes. Now, you cannot allow for anyone other than the sheriff's department to serve the respondent unless the court order says so. Yes. You can't have forgeries. You obligate the petitioner to have to appear in court, and if she chooses not to, then you're obligated to remove your court orders. Now, I'm going to sue each and every sheriff of the United States for breach of contract. Pouch! Uh, Service of civil process and court order. That's what the Clallam County Sheriff's Manual says. Now, when somebody other than the sheriff served me in the Sequim Public Library, it's not just a wrongful execution now, okay, because it was a wrongful execution. It wasn't that you didn't serve me where I actually resided in Port Angeles. Yes. It's that it's a breach of your contract as defined in your manual right now. Now, every fucking sheriff of the United States is going to lose everything they own because you've refused to enforce the RCWs necessary to issue court orders. Yes. And those RCWs are obligated to be enforced. Coach. And you refuse to enforce my rights as a citizen. Pow. Now, this arrest authority that you say you have, the arrest authority of the Clallam County Sheriff's Office, probable cause to believe has committed or is committing a felony, yes. Authority to arrest a person without a warrant. A peace officer may arrest a person without a warrant for committing misdemeanor or gross misdemeanors, yes. Now, when there is probable cause for an offense involving domestic violence, oh, probable cause. Where was I at? Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. When you transported me across county lines for a failure to appear, where did you send the notice of court hearings? You sent them to 1023 Kitchen Dick Road. Can you tell me why Mike Van Proyen hasn't been... Well, arrest warrants. When the judge requests my presence in court, you have never had arrest authority in the name of the state of Washington. Now you're going to give me my sons. Do you understand? Do you understand?